What's that up falling from the sky? You usually see rain, sometimes hail or snow, depending where you live. But what if you saw fish or frogs? Or blood or worms? All of these have been reported at various times in history. Before we go to the topic, if you are a family, by subscribing to this channel and pressing the call sign, you will receive unique and interesting programs every day. I invite you to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Number 1. Spider rain. It's a good thing that of the 40,000 or so species of spiders in the world, only 23 are considered social. One of these social species, Anolosimus eximius, gathered for a little party one day in 2013 in Santo Antonio de Platina, Brazil. The next thing the residents knew, spiders were falling from the sky. As they'd say in Portuguese, que horrível. This arachnid species, which lives in colonies that can number in the thousands, likes to gather together later in the afternoon or in the early evening and create enormous webs to trap insects for their next meal. The webs can be as large as 65 feet tall, 19 meters, and stretch from the ground up to tree canopies or buildings. When the spiders are in these webs, they can look like stars in the sky. Normally, they stay in their sticky webs and wait for dinner to come calling. But if Mother Nature calls in some strong winds for the night, the webs can be blown off their anchoring points and carried away. At some point, when the wind weakens, they'll rain down to earth. Hopefully, no one will be in the vicinity when this happens. Number 2. Frogs rain. In 1873, a frog fall smote Kansas City, ditto for Dubuque, Iowa, in 1882. What was puzzling in both of those cases was that there were no bodies of water nearby. Experts theorized the Kansas City event was due to a tornado elsewhere that had carried the frogs to the city. Scientists studying the Dubuque case similarly believe the frogs were sucked up by a powerful wind, then encapsulated into hail before being dumped onto the unsuspecting citizens of Dubuque. More recently, in 2005, thousands of frogs fell from the sky into a town in Serbia. This frog dumping occurred during a powerful storm, which a Serbian climatologist said was the reason behind the event. While these explanations are the same as those for the fish falls previously discussed, there might be additional reasons for frog rains. One is that the frogs aren't falling from the sky after all. Some people get so excited at the possibility that they extrapolate the occurrence from a common one. It's possible that a major storm can drive frogs from their normal habitat. So if you look outside during a heavy storm and suddenly see frogs hopping around everywhere, you might think it was raining frogs, when actually the frogs hopped to your yard on their own. Number 3. Meat rain. The year was 1876. The locale, Olympia Springs, Kentucky. One Mrs. Allen Crouch was outside, minding her own business, making soap, when large flakes of meat drifted down around her. They looked like beef. The sky was clear, which puzzled Mrs. Allen Crouch all the more. The flakes, roughly 2 inches by 2 inches, 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters, coated the ground and stuck out of the fencing. Mrs. Crouch, smart woman that she was, left them there. 2 men stopped over a day or so later, when the flesh chunks were now dried and spoiled. They ate some, and described the flavor as that of mutton or venison. Samples of the meat were taken and analyzed. One report by a Leopold Brandeis, published that year in Scientific American, said the substance was nostoc, a freshwater, blue-green algae often found in moist places in jelly-like colonies. Typically smaller in size, Brandeis said this nostoc must have swollen with water when it rained down upon the Crouch household. The only problem was that it wasn't raining that day. So it couldn't have been nostoc. Luckily other scientists received samples and did additional analyses. The consensus, published in the American Journal of Microscopy in Popular Science, was that they were a mix of cartilage, muscular tissue and lung tissue. But what was that tissue from, and why did it rain down on Mrs. Crouch? We'll never know for sure. L.D. Kassenbein, a professor of chemistry in the Louisville College of Pharmacy, claimed the substance, which he confirmed was a mix of connective and fatty tissues and muscular fibers, was the stomach contents of a bunch of vultures who projectile vomited it when flying over the Crouch residence. The 2 vulture species found in Kentucky do sometimes barf as a defensive measure, or to lighten themselves for flight. This was not Kassenbein's own theory. He said he heard it from the old Ohio farmer, but clearly it was the only plausible theory. Sounds good, and gross, to us. Number 4. Blood/red rain. When heavy rains hit Kerala, a coastal state in southern India, in 2001, people were concerned about a strange phenomenon. The rain was red, and it stained their clothes. The colored droplets fell on and off over a 2-month period, in very localized spots, diminishing over time. While sometimes the rain took on yellow and green hues, the main color was blood red. Initially, some suspected this unusual activity was caused by an exploded meteor, as some early eyewitnesses reported hearing a boom and seeing a flash of light shortly before the red rain first fell. The next thought was that the cause was scarlet sand blown in from Arabia, which mixed with the rains. But studies showed that the red particles extracted from the water were not grains of sand. No, the ruby flecks appeared to contain cells of a biologic origin. In fact, they looked quite like those of bugs. One duo studying the particles, Godfrey Lewis and his research assistant, Santhosh Kumara, of Kerala's Mahatma Gandhi University, came up with a unique theory. The red rain, they said, got its color from extraterrestrial organisms. Taking the booming noise into consideration, Lewis posited a comet disintegrated, its pieces seeding clouds, which then encapsulated them into raindrops that fell to Earth. His results were published in 2006 in the peer-reviewed journal Astrophysics and Space. The Indian government's conclusion? Airborne algal spores from local trees. Lewis continued studying the red cells with an international team of researchers. The group reported that while the cells are inert at room temperature, they reproduce when heated to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 121 degrees Celsius, something highly unusual. DNA also has been found in the cells, but it can't be extracted. No one can explain the phenomenon with any certainty. And no meteoric dust was found in the samples. However, those who believe in the extraterrestrial theory say it's evidence of panspermia, a theory that life can be seeded on various worlds from space. In 2012, red rain once again fell from the skies of Kerala. Number 5. Fish rain. While it's certainly not common for the skies to rain down fish, it has actually happened in more than one spot around the globe. In 1947 in Marksville, Louisiana, a variety of fish began falling from the heavens: largemouth black bass, goggle-eye, hickory shad, and 2 types of sunfish. The fish, 2 to 9 inches, 5 to 23 centimeters, in size, were falling as closely as 1 fish every square yard, 1 square meter. More recently, in 2010, hundreds of spangled perch fell on a small town in the Australian outback on 2 consecutive days. The small, white fish, common in this northern part of Australia, were alive when they hit the ground. Locals say this same phenomenon happened in 2004. What explains it? Scientists say tornadoes or the updrafts common with thunderstorms can be powerful enough to lift fish out of the water as they swirl over lakes or seas, then carry them long distances before releasing them when the updrafts lose steam. Waterspouts can snatch and carry fish as well. They can fly along at a 100-mile-per-hour, 161 km/h, clip, which is certainly strong enough to suck up and carry some fish. No one can say for certain whether one of these phenomena caused the above-noted fish falls. But it certainly seems plausible. Dear my listeners and viewers, I invite you to post your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Goodbye until we meet in another amazing video.